Story 1. The Vanishing Love ***. Me and my girlfriend were on a romantic trip in Hawaii after months of emotional distancing due to work. It was supposed to be a chance to rekindle what we had lost. The ocean breeze, the stunning sunsets, the way she smiled at me, it all felt like a glimpse of what we used to be. But then, on the final days, she suddenly wanted to stay without me. She said she needed to find herself. This wasn't in the plan. Confused and hurt, I made a cold decision. I cut her off financially and left her there. That was the last time I saw her. Years later, I still wonder, was she trying to escape me or did she really lose herself? It was a month after I returned home that I realized something was off. Her social media went silent. Her family hadn't heard from her either. It was as if she had disappeared into the island itself. Curiosity turned into dread. What if she wasn't running away from me? What if something happened to her? I called the resort where we had stayed. They confirmed she had checked out, but no one knew where she went next. My calls to her went unanswered, and even her best friend had no clue. The guilt settled in. Had I abandoned her when she needed me most? A year passed before I received an anonymous message. "You shouldn't have left her." My blood ran cold. The text came with a photo, grainy like a security camera still. It was her, or someone who looked like her, standing in the distance on a rocky beach, staring at the ocean. The number was untraceable. Was she alive? Was this a warning? I booked a flight back to Hawaii the next day. The island felt different this time. Less romantic, more foreboding. I retraced our steps, visiting the places we had once laughed and loved. The last place I visited was a secluded cove we had found on our second day. That's where I saw it, a single sandal half buried in the sand, eerily familiar. Then a whisper behind me, "You came back." Do we ever truly know the people we love, or are we just in love with our perception of them? Story 2. The Unspoken Distance ***. 2 years ago, life with Jay was like something out of a feel-good movie. We were that couple, always holding hands, always planning the next adventure. But as my career advanced, our connection weakened. The shift was subtle at first. Missing a dinner date, canceling plans, staying late at work. She was understanding. Or at least she pretended to be. The last 2 months were different. She had grown quiet, distant, almost as if she was fading away. Then one day she was just gone. No note, no fight, just an empty apartment. I tried to tell myself she needed space. Maybe she'd come back. Maybe this was just temporary. But then I found the key, the one I had given her when she moved in. It sat neatly on the kitchen counter next to a folded napkin from the coffee shop where we had our first date. There was something written on it. "You stopped noticing." I stared at the words, my mind scrambling for meaning. What had I missed? When did she decide to leave? I searched our home for clues, finding little things out of place. Books missing, drawers half empty, the scent of her perfume fading from the air. Desperate for answers, I checked our shared cloud account. That's when I saw it, a series of photos from places I didn't recognize. Her smile was different, forced. In the last picture, she stood in front of a motel in the middle of nowhere, looking over her shoulder. The date stamp was the night she disappeared. I drove for hours tracking down the location. The motel manager remembered her, said she had checked in for one night, alone. When I asked what name she had used, his answer made my stomach drop. It wasn't hers. It wasn't any name I knew. Is absence always a choice, or can love quietly dissolve into nothing without either person realizing it? Story 3. The Forgotten Call ***. Jay and I had a routine. Every night, no matter how late, I would call her. But one night I didn't. I was exhausted, buried in work, assuming she'd understand. The next morning, I woke up to frantic messages. She had called me over and over, something was wrong, she needed me. By the time I called back, it was too late. The police found her car abandoned on a remote road. No sign of her. It's been years, but sometimes in the dead of night, I still hear my phone ringing. I tried to retrace her steps. The last ping from her phone came from a desolate stretch of highway. There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of an accident. It was as if she had simply stepped out of her car and vanished. The authorities were baffled. Her credit cards were never used again. No bus tickets, no flights. Just nothing. Then, months later, I received a voicemail. The number was unknown, but the voice was hers. "I waited for you." That was it. No background noise, no explanation. I played it over and over, analyzing every second. Was she alive? If she was, why wouldn't she come back? Was someone forcing her to stay away? A year later, I was walking through a crowded street in San Francisco when I saw her. Or at least I thought I did. Same hair, same way of tilting her head. I pushed through the crowd, calling her name, but when I reached her, she turned, and it wasn't Jay. But her eyes, they were filled with something hauntingly familiar. She smiled as if she knew me. Then she whispered, "You should have answered." Do we ever recognize the most important moments of our lives while we're living them? Story 4. The house on Oak Ridge Drive ***. When I first saw the house on Oak Ridge Drive, it felt like a dream. A perfect home for a fresh start. It had been vacant for years, yet something about it felt strangely familiar. The neighbors kept their distance, offering vague warnings about the house's history. I shrugged it off, until the first night. The sound started at midnight. Soft whispers coming from the vents, footsteps in the hall when I was alone. I told myself it was the old structure settling. But then the messages appeared. Scratched into the walls, written in dust on the mirrors. "Get out while you can." I found an old newspaper article tucked in the attic. A couple had lived here years ago, and the wife had vanished without a trace. The husband was suspected but was never charged. I felt a chill. I had seen him before. In my dreams. The final straw came when I woke up to find my bedroom door wide open. My phone screen was glowing, a new message typed out, "You are him." Are our past lives ever truly gone, or do they find ways to remind us? Story 5. The man in the reflection ***. I used to believe mirrors were just glass, reflections of the world in front of them. That changed the night I saw him, someone else staring back at me. It started subtly. My reflection hesitating a second too long, my smile fading before I moved. I thought it was my mind playing tricks. Until one night he blinked, and I hadn't. I tried everything to convince myself it wasn't real. Covered the mirrors, avoided my own reflection. But he was always there watching, studying. And then one night he spoke. "It's my turn now." The next morning everything felt different. My movements were slightly off, my thoughts weren't entirely my own. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw nothing at all. What if our reflection isn't just an image, but a waiting shadow, longing to take our place? Story 6. The silent passenger ***. It started with a feeling. That eerie sensation of not being alone when driving at night. At first, I dismissed it, just paranoia from too many horror movies. But then the rearview mirror started showing something I couldn't ignore. A shadow in the back seat. Not always there, but often enough to unsettle me. Sometimes I caught a glimpse of long hair. Other times, just the faintest outline of a person. But when I turned around, the seat was always empty. Then came the whispers. Faint, unintelligible murmurs as I drove down lonely roads. My radio would flicker, static crackling even when it was off. One night I finally spoke aloud. "What do you want?" A breathy voice, cold and distant, answered, "You took my way home." I slammed on the brakes. My heart pounded. I knew this road well. I had driven it 100 times. But years ago there had been an accident here. A woman had died when her car veered off the road. The next time I checked my mirror, she was gone. But I knew she would be back. She was still looking for her way home. Do the lost ever truly leave, or do they wait for someone to help them find the way? Story 7. The door that shouldn't exist ***. When I moved into my apartment, I thought I had explored every inch of it. Until one night when I woke up to find a door I had never seen before. It stood at the end of the hallway, slightly ajar, revealing only darkness beyond. My pulse quickened. I lived alone, there was no reason for a door to just appear. I reached for the knob, but my hand trembled. The air beyond it was colder, carrying a faint, metallic scent. I slammed it shut and pushed a dresser in front of it. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe it had always been there and I just hadn't noticed. The next morning it was gone. For weeks nothing happened. Then one night I heard knocking from inside the wall. Slow. Rhythmic. And the next morning the door was back. This time a note was pinned to it. "You left me behind. Let me in." I haven't touched the door since. But every night I hear the knocking. And I don't know how much longer I can ignore it. If a door appears that was never there before, do you open it, or do you run? Story 8. The forgotten friend. I had a childhood friend named Eli. We did everything together, until he moved away when we were 10. We promised to stay in touch, but life got in the way. Eventually, I forgot about him. Then last month I got a friend request from Eli. His profile had no pictures, just his name. A message followed, "Do you remember me?" A chill ran down my spine. I typed a hesitant reply. "Of course, Eli. How have you been?" His response was instant. "I never left. You did." That night, I dug through old photo albums. I found our childhood pictures. Birthday parties, school trips, summer afternoons. But something was wrong. Eli wasn't in any of them. I checked the yearbooks. No Eli. I called my mom asking if she remembered my old friend. Her silence was unsettling. Sweetheart, you never had a friend named Eli. The next message appeared on my screen. I remember you though. And I'm coming to see you. What if our forgotten memories aren't lost, but waiting for the right moment to return? Story 9. The room that shouldn't be lived in my house for 5 years before I found the hidden door in the basement. It led to a small, windowless room with a single chair in the middle. The walls were covered in scratches as if someone had been trapped inside. There were no records of this room on the house's blueprints. No sign that it had ever existed. That night, I woke up to a noise coming from the basement. A soft tapping. I crept downstairs, heart pounding. The door to the hidden room was open. The chair was empty. A single word had been carved into the wall. Run. If a place was meant to stay hidden, what happens when you uncover it? Story 10. The wrong number. It started as a mistake. A simple text from an unknown number. I'm here. I ignored it at first, assuming it was sent to the wrong person. But then another came. I see you. I locked my doors, checked my windows. Nothing. Just paranoia, I told myself. Then a final message arrived. Look outside. My heart pounded as I hesitantly peeked through the blinds. A figure stood motionless in the street, staring up at me. My phone buzzed again. A picture. It was taken from just outside my window. What if a wrong number wasn't a mistake, but a warning? Story 11. The Vanishing Reflection. One morning, I noticed something strange in my bathroom mirror. My reflection wasn't following my movements. It lagged like an old video buffering. Then one day it stopped appearing altogether. But I was still there. If your reflection disappears, does that mean you're still real? Story 12. The missing time. I woke up to find my phone filled with photos I don't remember taking. They show me asleep in my bed, taken from the foot of my mattress. My door was locked. I live alone. What if we don't sleep as soundly as we think we do? Story 13. The stranger's face. I was scrolling through old family photos when I saw it. A face I didn't recognize. A man standing in the background of every major event in my life. Always watching. What if you were never truly alone? Story 14. The second shadow. One evening, I realized I had two shadows. One was mine. The other moved slightly out of sync. What if something else is walking beside you, waiting for you to notice? Story 15. The wrong house. I arrived home late, exhausted, and unlocked my door. Everything looked normal, until I noticed the family photos on the wall. They weren't my family. But the house was mine. Wasn't it? What if one day you came home and it wasn't your home anymore? These suspenseful tales take you through eerie encounters, forgotten memories, and chilling discoveries. From lost lovers and mysterious doors to vanishing reflections and ominous messages, each story explores the unknown lurking in the shadows of our lives. Every question at the end of each story challenges your perception of reality, asking if the things we ignore, forget, or fail to notice may be more real than we ever imagined. If you love suspense, mystery, and the thrill of the unknown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling stories that will keep you up at night.